You're listening to the Bird Dog Babe podcast with my mom, Courtney Bastion.
I wanted like a traditional grouse camp to, come to Western Montana, and I wanted it to be all like women that I know and love and that I know are also smart hunters, savvy outdoors women where I didn't have to hold people's hands to, bring the right layers or pack the right food or have, I wanted people who would get out there and hunt rather than just baby feed someone along. So kind of those were the people I invited. And I think there's kind of that degree of gravity. I wanted people who were going to be smart in the woods that we could trust, when they're carrying a shotgun and swinging on birds with dogs running around. That's what I wanted for this camp.
Hey, bird dog babes. My name is Courtney Bastion, and I am obsessed with all things bird dogs. And I'm here with you to share the stories, experiences, knowledge, and opinions from the women and a few guys in the industry that are killing it. I'm a Wisconsin girl living in a Montana world. I'm mom and 2 incredible kiddos, wife and occasional assistant to a pro gun dog trainer, traveling the U.S. talking about canine nutrition while hunting, breeding, and competing with my German wire hair pointers and Bracco Italianos. As someone who started hunting later in life because I wanted to give my dogs the opportunity to do what they were bred to do, I'm here to help inspire, educate, and connect women to get their bird dogs out in the field and experience a bond like no other. So pour yourself a glass of wine and get ready to be challenged and encouraged while you learn. This is the Bird Dog Babe podcast. If you haven't already, head over to backcountryhunters.org and check out the 12-night live skill series presented by BHA and Filson. These are free classes, including one I co-hosted with Hannah Nickenow, where we discuss adult onset upland bird hunting and your first bird dog, which will be held on Monday, October 5th, and followed up with a live Q&A session with us. Again, it's free, so get registered, and you will also have a chance to win free gear from BHA and Filson. When you guys rate and review the podcast, it helps immensely for those looking to find podcasts to listen to. So please take a couple of minutes to rate and review on whichever platform you listen to this podcast on, and I would sincerely appreciate it. Today, I'm having the 3 other ladies of Girls Grouse Camp join me for a weekend recap. The sisterhood, stories, and success we had was bar none one that tops my list as best times ever. I'm not going to spare any more time on details as we get into it in the episode, so let's get after it. Thank you to sponsor Dakota 283, unparalleled protection for traveling to and from your favorite hunting spot. Dakota 283 kennels are a premium quality roto-mold with recessed handles on top for convenient and safe tie-down and makes it easy to lift up into the truck. I love the secure door frame with high security locks so I know my dogs are safe when I need to stop for fuel. An added bonus is the drain hole in the back, which makes cleaning a breeze when your dog has been run hard and put away wet. Head over to Dakota283.com and use promo code BirdDogBabe for a 10% discount. Thanks to sponsor Excel Shooting Sports, elite dealer of Caesar Guarini, Fab Arm, and Siren shotguns. Siren is the world's only full line of shotguns created for the female competitor, hunter, and shotgun enthusiast. Excel is one of only 4 demo centers west of the Mississippi. They give you the opportunity to actually try out a gun before you walk out the door with it. As an elite dealer for Caesar Guarini, Excel offers their customers unlimited pit stops of free service and tune-ups on all shotguns. A great way to have your gun in top condition for the upcoming hunting or target season. In addition, they're offering an exclusive deal to all of the Bird Dog Babe listeners for a free gun slip with each purchase, a $90 value. Hey, ladies.
Hey.
Thanks for joining me on the podcast today as we do a recap of Girls Grouse Camp. All right, let's go around. So we originally had, what was there? Hannah. So Hannah Nickenow organized all of Grouse Camp and put us in this amazing location And Hannah, you originally were there 8 that were going to come?
Yeah, we had 8 gals lined up, and just life circumstances. One gal got sent to fight fire in California. Another had a back injury, and then our one gal who is pregnant decided with the smoke she was gonna wait this one out, and a couple others. But I think we had a pretty cool core group. That's on the podcast right now.
We did. So we had Hannah, and then Laura Ryan, and Julie Unfried.
Mm-hmm.
So let's do a short intro of all of you. Hannah, you've been on the podcast before, but let's remind people who you are, what you do, and your experience in bird dogs and hunting.
Yeah, so I live and work out of Missoula, Montana. And I think maybe all of us on the podcast here are adult onset upland bird hunters. And I got my first Griff. He's hanging out with me right here. And 7 years ago. And I've just now added a poodle pointer to my mix. And so they are carrying me along. I'm running behind them on my upland endeavors.
Awesome. Lauren, let's go to you.
Yeah, so I grew up in Montana, just lived in the Missoula area for the past 9 years, and just in the last couple months relocated down to northern Utah. And as Hannah mentioned, an adult onset hunter myself. I did not grow up around hunting at all. And as most people's stories are, the boyfriend brought me into hunting. And even further than that, the boyfriend happened to be Hannah's younger brother. And so following Hannah around, she took me out grouse hunting for the first time and fell in love with chasing around the bird dog, mostly. Rye really got me into it. So ever since then, just and that was only a year ago, but so learning the ropes of it. And my husband and I just adopted a German short hair pointer. So figuring out the ropes with her right now too. So it's been really fun.
That is awesome. And is she 4 years old?
Yeah, they think 4 years old. So
yeah.
I just had to drag her in from outside because she was pointing doves in our yard. So she definitely has the drive. That's for sure.
Do you live in town?
Yeah, we're in town.
So you can't go dove hunting in the backyard then with her?
No, okay. Unfortunately not. So.
All right, Julie, how about you?
Yeah, so this is my 5th season upland bird hunting, so also an adult onset bird hunter, which I really like that term a lot. I got into hunting back when I was doing field work, wildlife field jobs, and just saw a lot of other people hunting and liked the mentality of an opportunity to get out and hike around and bring something home that you can put on the table. And so I just started kind of shadowing friends and coworkers who hunted and spent a lot of time hunting over all sorts of various breeds over the last 5 years, and finally broke down and decided to get my own bird dog. So now I have a small Munsterlander who's 6 months old. She'll be 7 months pretty soon. And it's been a ton of fun, a huge learning experience for both of us, growing together as upland bird hunters mostly.
That's
and
awesome.
I'm in Eastern Oregon. So.
Okay. And you just ran Harney, your Munsterlander puppy, and natural ability. Was it last weekend?
Yeah, the weekend before we came out to hunt with you guys, I ran her. That was my first time handling a dog in a NABDA event. And she got a prize 1, and she just awed me. So I was pretty stoked with the outcome.
She's a really cool little puppy. I got to hunt over just a little bit because we kind of all spread out and changed up kind of partners throughout the weekend, but she was fun, little snappy thing that
Yeah, she's got a lot of sass.
Yeah, she's so talkative. I think she had the hots for Angus. It was his the drool that she found pretty sexy.
Yeah, definitely. She's actually been missing him a lot since we got home. She's been real squirrely, and I think it's because she misses Angus.
That's got to be it. That's got to be it. I love it. So Hannah, tell us a little bit about your idea of doing this grouse camp in general.
Yeah, so I love reading about, hunting traditions, especially there's lots of big game hunting traditions and male dominated elk camps. But there's also out kind of in the Midwest and further east, there's kind of this lore around grouse camp. The Michigan grouse camps, and where, all these men and families get together year after year and, go hunt birds and raise dogs together and kind of learn that way. And, grouse hunting, especially forest grouse hunting in the West, I don't think it has the respect that it should. It's kind of those birds, just sit on roads and they're so easy. And, I'll shoot one while I'm archery hunting just as a side project until the elk start talking. But I wanted a traditional grouse camp to, come to Western Montana, and I wanted it to be all women that I know and love and that I know are also smart hunters, savvy outdoors women, where I didn't have to hold people's hands to, bring the right layers or pack the right food or have, I wanted people who would get out there and hunt rather than just baby feed someone along. So kind of those were the people I invited. And I think there's kind of that degree of gravity. I wanted people who were going to be smart in the woods that we could trust, when they're carrying a shotgun and swinging on birds with dogs running around. That's what I wanted for this camp.
Yeah, it was awesome. So we had a really cool crew of dog power as well, because there were 4 of us. There were 5 dogs in all different breeds. So I brought a German White Hair Pointer and a Bracco Italiano. Hannah, you had?
I had the wire-haired pointing Griffon and the Poodle Pointer.
And Julie?
I had the sassy little Munsterlander. Small Munsterlander.
It was awesome. And Lauren's hunted over Rye in the past, and so he was kind of her stand-in. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, he's my buddy, but still trying to learn with the new pup. So I figured it was best to leave her behind this trip and get to hunt over some awesome, well-trained dogs, just so I could maybe find some more success instead of focusing on trying to train my own dog.
I just like how you said well-trained.
Yeah.
Well, gotta give him some credit.
Yeah. Well, I was really glad for Lauren to have the experience, because she's has hunted over my Griff, who he moves fast. Even in the grouse woods, he is just charging, and he'll find birds if you can, and you can get birds over him if you can keep up. But then he got to hunt over Courtney's dogs, where they are probably much more wise when it comes to reading the habitat and hunting closer and working that. So Lauren was like, I didn't know hunting wasn't a sprint, or it doesn't have to be a sprint. And so it was, and I've hunted over Courtney's Stasha, and it was just cool. She works different, and I've seen German wire hairs in the prairie, going at 500 yards, and it was really neat to see her dogs read the cover. So I definitely saw some aspirations to work towards in training dogs on different habitats.
Yeah, and that's something I've learned a lot, I think, this year, in just the difference of dogs working grouse habitat. So that thick cover versus and I was astounded when I went out just watching them out east a couple weeks ago. and how they work open cover. And then I can take dogs here and they want nothing to do with getting into those woods. Like they almost see it as a wall. And so some of the training I've been listening to, what people are cutting holes into the forest cover to start teaching their dogs how to run in those woods, because we train our dogs in general and not necessarily taking into consideration the difference of habitat. And if you want a really good grouse dog, they need to be able to break through that cover. And I think similar is what South Dakota is in the winter, breaking through those hard, frozen, thick cattails. Not all dogs want to do that. So that's kind of an interesting thing of it. But I think you're underscoring Rye there, because he is like the most smartest grouse dog, Montana grouse dog I've ever met. Don't you agree?
Yeah, and that's a good distinction between Montana grouse dog and your kind of Wisconsin grouse dog. So what he does is he knows that our grouse out west haven't had the pressure and aren't as smart, I'd say, as grouse elsewhere. So often our birds get up in trees. So he trees them and he stays on the bird and looks at them and, waits. Hopefully, we heard the flush or we come find him and he's looking up in the tree and he's like, right there, dummy, shoot it.
He knows right where it's at. Yeah, that's super clever.
Mm-hmm.
Super clever because, Stasha grew up in the grouse woods. She was hunting in the grouse woods since she was probably 6 months old. And you could see how she worked. And it was just constantly in the brush here and there. But once they flush, it's like if nobody shot it, it's gone. So, yeah, it's kind of interesting difference to watch the dogs work. And Harney, she was getting in there.
Yeah, I was really impressed with her. I did have to kind of like guide her into the brush, and so I actually ended up getting a lot more soggy than I probably will in a year from now. But no, I was super impressed with her. Just like, and she works so much better when she's wet and cool anyway. So I think that kind of environment, she's just gonna really crush it in next year. But I think she had a hard time, figuring out that birds were high up in the trees. But I did notice she was really good about finding birds that were on the ground. And I watched her just like switch from, kind of searching around all over the place and going from bush to bush, just all of a sudden like totally turn a 180. And obviously she's on a scent, and then all of a sudden the bird is up, and we're still working on the pointing. But yeah, I was really impressed with her, especially considering she's just a little puppy still in my mind. So yeah, it was really great to watch her kind of figure things out and start to develop into a bird dog.
Why did you go for a Munsterlander for your first?
So I had actually hunted over the breed about 5 or 6 years ago, and I didn't hunt. I actually kind of just shadowed other hunters and had spent some time in field housing with the breed too. And I just really liked, I didn't have a ton of experience hunting, so to me they seemed like epic hunting dogs, but what I really appreciated about them was their personality and their demeanor in the house around other people. And that definitely rings true with Harney, because she's just like the silliest, sweetest little girl and has so much personality. And but I feel like she's also pretty good at like turning it on and getting active in the field. So yeah.
I loved watching her work. Yeah, for sure. Did you do any training with her on cover, or have you like hunted in thicker stuff like that, or trained her in that thicker brush that she goes in so well?
Not really. I mean, before the season, I took her out kind of scouting around the forest north of Burns. And so she did kind of like, she would go through the brush and search on her own. And then I did take her hunting like one time before we came out here for forest grouse. But no, I mean, just taking her for runs in the woods and, hikes and stuff, I watched her just kind of start to search around on her own over the summer. And that was really the extent of the quote unquote training I did with her. So, yeah.
Cool. I want to talk about the location that Hannah found for us at camp. We're not going to talk too much about it because I don't want to tell people where it was, because that would take out the joy of futureness. But it was Julie got in on Thursday night, and then you guys went out for a hunt on Friday morning, and then when I got there Friday afternoon, we walked right from camp and got into a ton of birds just within walking. And it was, I think, throughout the weekend, there were several opportunities and fantastic cover that, heck, if we had 20 women there, everybody would have had success getting into a lot of birds. So why that location? How did you find that one, Hannah?
Yeah, so with the puppy, I probably did more scouting locally, and also not thinking I would be doing a ton of travel, and probably still won't be doing a ton of travel too far from home this hunting season, but I wanted to get the puppy on as many birds as possible. So kind of all throughout August, I was running around different spots in western Montana looking for birds, but primarily I was looking for water. And just kind of as I was hiking around, mostly like trying to get myself in shape, keep the puppies in shape, just kind of the places I was finding grouse had active water. Even if the riparian looked really good where I was at, those the brushy kind of not conifer trees, and with like the berries and the bugs that the dogs will like, if it didn't have any sort of active pooled water or a little bit of running water, I wasn't finding the birds. And so kind of this early in the season, that was super important. And so kind of that spot that I took us to, it had just, the right mix of active water with the riparian and a little bit of aspen at various points, or cottonwoods, just kind of that stuff. And as we were hiking around, just seeing, our snowberries and the rosehips and some grasshoppers, and that's all that we found. Those were what we were finding in those crops. One of the birds that we looked at of Lauren's actually had a whole bunch of little clover in it. So that mix was what the birds wanted.
Yeah, it was interesting. I think the crops is the most fascinating part for me, in seeing what they have for habitat. But it usually tells where you're going to find them. But I think we had such a mix. I had one bird, the crop was just full of hoppers. There was nothing else except for hoppers. And then I saw some, like, Julie, what did you see in yours?
I had a mix, and I remember like the first bird I got, I think I found kinnikinick, snowberry, rosehip. So all three of those. And then I know in another one we found, was it serviceberry, Hannah? So all sorts of berries. I was actually surprised. Hannah and I went to one spot where it had all of those habitat components that we were looking for, but it didn't seem like we had a ton of water. And we walked for a long time, and then after a while, I kind of remember thinking like, oh, maybe we should just bag this place and go somewhere else. And right about then, I think it was Rye that got real birdie, and we actually found probably a group of 5 or 6 birds. And so I think there must have been water nearby, but there was obviously tons of rosehips and snowberry available that the birds were obviously getting into. But,
yeah, and also just keeping our dogs going, getting them wet. We can give them all the water we can from our packs, but if they can stand in water, if they can get their feet wet or their belly wet, and that really kind of also, I think it helped us kind of as the weekend went on. We got that little bit of weather, and that moisture turned them up.
Right.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
And when Lauren had a full bag of birds in her backpack, it was nice she wasn't being weighted down by water bottles.
Yeah, I didn't have to carry any water for any dogs, so it was easy for me. But I was being loaded down by my sopping wet clothes after, romping around in that thick stuff. It was like I took a shower without wanting to take one. So I had the extra water weight to carry with me, I guess.
Yeah, I think at various points we'd stop and we'd like grab our ponytails and like wring water out of them.
Yeah.
But Lauren, that was your first like full bag of birds, right? Have you ever gotten a limit before?
Yeah, no, I had only killed one bird last season. Last year was my first season ever bird hunting. So one really felt like a success, even though I spent numerous days hiking. But, really took last year to learn and get comfortable with carrying a gun. I never grew up shooting or being around any firearms. So I really wanted to spend the first part of my season really learning and shooting and carrying a gun properly. So I did a lot of shadowing my first season. And just kind of chasing people around, because part of the art too, when you're diving into the woods, is you're carrying this firearm, and how can I safely carry this while I'm, walking over slippery logs and stuff. So I really wanted to get comfortable with the firearm first. So yeah, on Saturday, you guys had all had success that morning. I think you all had gotten 2 birds, and I left with nothing from that morning. So I was really determined that evening. And yeah, I think the moisture definitely seemed to turn them on, and, they didn't seem to be moving as much. So I think that led to the success but yeah, I was stoked to get 3 birds. I couldn't believe it.
Yeah, no, that's not normal first like novice experience, FYI.
Yeah, no, I definitely think I came away lucky, and now I was spoiled after this past weekend, and I know it's gonna ruin me for the rest of the season, but I'm glad to have some success at least.
It is, but you know what? That's also a reason why you're gonna go back and do it again, right?
Exactly.
So,
Yep. It keeps that drive going. That's for sure.
Yeah. If you had hunted 2 days in the rain and came home with nothing, you'd be like, I don't know.
Yeah.
So that's definitely helpful.
Exactly.
Although I'm sure getting your dog out would have been enough initiative to go out and do it again, but it always helps to have some success and know what that's like. But did you learn about difference in cover too?
Yeah. So when I was hunting back in Missoula, when I lived up there, hunting in a lot of forested areas, kind of down timber. And this was kind of my first time hunting in some aspen stands as well, which was really cool. Down here in Utah, we've mostly been exploring in aspens, which has been really fun cover to hunt in. But yeah, that really thick stuff, I'd struggle hunting in. There was a moment when we heard some birds flush, and Hannah was like, get in there, so I'm getting through all the brush, and all of a sudden I hear them flush, and they're literally like right above my head. And I think a joke of the weekend was I'd have a fear of birds, actually. So I think people are a little dumbfounded about why I enjoy bird hunting. So having some birds flush right above my head was a little bit of an uncomfortable feeling. But yeah, I think that actually happened twice throughout the weekend, where they were actually just hanging out right above my head. And, they're so stealthy and quiet, and sometimes you just don't even see them.
Or when they're coming right at your face.
Oh my gosh, that was so crazy. That was the craziest thing. I've never had a grouse fly literally at my head. I haven't practiced that shot either. I haven't practiced that oncoming shot that's like right there. Yeah, well, and that's why, safety first, right? So I'm not going to take the shot when I have my muzzle pointed straight at you guys.
Yeah, and I think I was really impressed with kind of everyone that that was there, just because the gravity of what we're doing when, at that one time when we were covering that really big kind of creek bottom that was pretty wide, and it was all 4 of us, 2 on each side, kind of, taking turns. the communication that we had to have, across that when, the cover was thick enough where we couldn't see, but, we're all wearing, orange or bright colors so we could tell each other where we're at, because, we've all heard those stories of either people getting shot or a dog being, someone getting really excited and taking a low shot, or the terrain going up and the dog's up there and they maybe take a, what might seem like an appropriate shot and the dog getting hit, and just, I was just so proud of kind of how responsible this group was and how kind of smart we hunted.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because every other portion of the weekend we hunted only in twos, right, in different locations. Yeah. So this was the one time that there was 4 of us, and sure enough, that was the time that we did have a prospective safety issue, wasn't there? Mm-hmm. So I think it was good that we had talked about that beforehand. Mm-hmm. Anyhow, a big take home for me, I know this is something you guys probably don't even think of, but you're all experienced with the whole hiking and packing and camping in the wilderness type thing. And that was brand new to me. You ladies each showed up with your own tote that says like Hannah's camp gear. Lauren, you guys each had your tote, and holy hell, Julie had like her kitchen in a tote.
I'm a little out of practice, so I just brought everything.
No, it was so good because Julie had a plate and she had forks and she had a freaking oven. It was awesome. So that was a huge learning experience for me of like, what to pack for next time. And then my cooler issue. So I show up with the only cooler I have is, this big frig 75 quart cooler that's massive-itis, huge, heavy. And I thought, it snaps on each side. And Hannah said, well, what is it for like Montana regulations to be bear safe? You have to have bolts in each side of it, even though it has a tight lock. So
yeah, they've got like kind of those type of coolers are often bear certified, but kind of just those like little snap downs that they have to keep it just in case, bear are pretty good at what they do. They can often get that open, but if you have 2 bolts kind of that go through those holes that are established on each of the kind of front corners, bolt with like to a nut on either end, that you can then have those as a bear safe container, and it doesn't have to be locked in a like a cab of a truck or something. Mm-hmm. And because some of us were sleeping in our vehicles and some were in tents, and so there is no way that you could sleep in your truck with the cooler. And so we found we had some extra tools around, and so we kind of secured that. But yeah, and we had the whole kind of system of making sure camp was picked up every time we left. And yeah, so hunting in bear country, camping in bear country is a different game.
Oh my gosh, yeah. And it's we were all carrying bear spray. Mm-hmm. And except for on Sunday, as Julie and I were out, and I'm about 100 yards from the truck, and I go, Julie, I forgot my bear spray. And she goes, well, I got one, but it's expired. And I'm like, okay, we were like complete opposite sides. It was that wide area that we had all 4 of us hit the day before, except a little further down. And then I get about another, I don't know, maybe 50 feet, and there is this fresh pile of bear poop. And I'm like, Julie, I think I'm going to go back to my truck and get the bear spray. It's like, it's a real thing. And it is a real fear because, someone had said, well, what's good habitat there? I'm like, well, it's the same as for the bears. They want the same thing as the grouse do. So, mm-hmm. And that stuff is so thick that you don't know, you won't even see them. You can't see your dogs, let alone, right around the next tree could be a bear sitting there. So
yeah. And I know a lot of people don't like to be talking to their dog or yelling and I do love the electronics that I have on my dog that show like direction and distance, and I find those really crucial. But every time I see the dog, or I'm saying, good boy, like you're doing good. And part of that is, I'm so stoked to watch the dog work, but I'm also making sure that anything hears us coming that, we don't want to tango with, maybe I'll spook some birds over that, but just kind of talking. And then, when Lauren and I were hunting together and the dog is in front of me, and she's off kind of to his side, she's like, hey, bear, hey, Shelby bear. I got my dog to wake up on that one.
Yeah. And I think probably for, I grew up in grizzly bear country and I'm very much comfortable, and that's right, and versus Courtney, coming from Wisconsin, not in grizz country. And a funny moment from the weekend was, you and I had been out for a while, got some flushes, but, you took a shot and missed. And then all of a sudden you go, Lauren, stop. And I'm like, oh my God, like what is about to happen? And you're like, turn around. And I'm like, there's got to be like a bear. We're about to be munched. And thankfully it was just a grouse straight across that ended up running. But I don't think, and you don't come from, you've only been in Montana for about a year now, you don't realize that some of those, I just immediately went to like, oh my, this is the moment.
You were like, you were like whipping for your bear spray.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. I need to learn bear lingo. I did. I was like, Lauren, stop, turn around. Because I was trying to set her up for the shot. There's a bird. And in Wisconsin, if you make noise or if the birds even see you, they are gone. So you got to be quiet if you're lucky enough to actually see a bird on a down tree. Mm-hmm. So,
yeah, that was
I'm
fun
learning
getting.
now.
Yeah, that was fun getting, hunting with you, Courtney, and just hearing, coming from Wisconsin and just, you were so used to saying, how it's so hard to get the birds and, they're, if you don't get to them quickly, they're gone, versus here you were like, why the heck is it just sitting in the tree? Like,
right.
You are so baffled by it. And, you tried to set me up for a couple shots, but then you were just like, nope, that thing's good. And you don't know, some of them may hold forever, but you were like, nope, Lauren's taking away. Yeah, no, done. Like, I'm going to take the shot, which was great.
I'm like, Lauren, he's right there between these two branches. And you're like, I don't seem like he's right. And like, I'm like, oh my God, this is taking too long. I can't believe it hasn't flown yet. So I'm like, boom. But it's so, and then I felt bad because, then you learn like, when they start flying, I'm shooting right on the fly, because if they're going to land, it's going to be, you're not going to know. And here I need to learn that. It's great to shoot them on the wing. That's preferred. Right. I get that. But the thing is they're going to fly somewhere very short. It's like a very short distance. And so I'm used to hearing like last for a couple seconds. And here it's like, because they just went somewhere like 25 feet away. So yeah, it's been a learning experience. And but yeah, sorry, Lauren, I was just like, he's gonna go. But then there was the one hunt where, we see him out. I saw him out in front of me, and I knew that you guys were on the other side of that cover. And I'm like, where you guys at? And then you said, I'm over here. And you were directly across me. I said, I can't take this shot. Unless you guys want to back up, I can take a shot. And then he was like, okay, I'm going back. And I heard her say, Julie, come back here. And then Bannock, come back here. So it's like 5 minutes of everybody get back, right? And I'm like looking at the bird going, I'm going to shoot you. I'm going to shoot you. And then I did, because everybody was safe. Like, how much of a warning do you need to tell these Montana grouse?
Yeah. And I think that goes to, because I know, I'm obviously still really new to it, but I know some people obviously won't shoot them out of the tree. And it does feel it feels a little weird in some instances, but also when you haven't found any in a long time and one's just sitting there, you're like,
you're making eye contact with it.
Yeah.
But you know what? I think that the dogs were finding them. and we didn't get to see a lot of dog work because I think in general that is tough grouse hunting because it is so thick and you usually just hear the flush and you hope your dog had pointed it. But, you're still rewarding the dogs because they're finding and flushing these birds. And I mean, heck, when Rye's over there staring at it going, are you kidding me? It's right here. How can you not reward that? So, I don't know. It's different. It's a learning experience for sure. But like we just went out grouse hunting this morning for just a quick hour, and there's a big red phase, very mature bird that I scouted out. I marked it out. I think it was like August 16th. So before season started, and I cannot get that. I call him the big red bastard. Can't get him. He got away from me again today. So like they, some learn. But yet, because we were getting the majority of gray phases, right? And then Hannah gets the most beautiful red phase bird, and you have a beautiful, awesome story to go with that. So please share it.
Yeah. And so I have this 9-month-old puppy, and I've shot a couple birds over him, and he has a pretty high drive. And so the birds I've shot over him, he goes and he picks up, and he is so excited to have this yummy, warm bird in his mouth. He crunches down on it. He's going to have a hard mouth. And so I've always been like really ready. We're doing force fetch, and, I get that bird out of his mouth as soon as possible. And so Julie and I split up after we were walking an area, and I'm headed back to camp. And all of a sudden this big mature roughy gets up, and I get him on the wing. And it's one of probably the first rough grouse I've ever shot on the wing, but he, dives into this, he goes down into this thick cover, and I charge up there and I start looking for him, and I can't find him. And I'm kind of rooting around. I go back to where I shot, and I don't know where the puppy is. He's running around, and I can't find it. So I back out again, and all of a sudden my puppy, who squishes birds, trots out of the woods with this big mature bird and spits him out in my hand, just like
unsquished.
Broke, not squished,
right?
Perfectly intact, just a really nice fan on it, and so I cried a little with happiness.
It was awesome.
And Bannock had 2 great retrieves on Sunday, or 3, I guess, on Sunday when we were hunting over him. And Rye was kind of focused on finding the next one, and I was really impressed with how Bannock did.
Yeah, he did it again on our last couple birds, and so I was like, oh, okay, at least the training, at least the work we're putting in, it's paying off, and I just have visions of kind of the adult dog he'll be. So yeah, it was wonderful.
Very exciting. I was super stoked about the dog power we had there. I think, we had young dogs, and we're talking about next year taking this to the prairie because they're all going to be more mature, more experienced, and so that we can just do what most of us appreciate the most is hunting over the dogs because we love to see them work. And we'll be able to get some, more bird work out of them and hopefully get some shots over points, chasing some sharp tail and huns, maybe sage grouse, depending on the time of year.
Yeah, just to work work birds that hold a little bit in a way that we just can't really get with forest grouse. It's going to be magical.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think it'll be really fun to see the young dogs that were there this year, how they grow and become even better next year. It'll be awesome.
Yep. The wall tent was a lifesaver as well on Saturday night after we hunted all afternoon. What time we got back to camp around 8 p.m.
Mm-hmm.
And we had, first of all, I've never heard of a wall tent before I moved here. So and I asked Hannah, didn't I even ask you that? I'm like, so what's the difference of like a wall tent versus a non-wall tent? So can you explain that for like other people like me that are naive and are from Wisconsin and don't know what those are?
Yeah, so often there's like the backpacking tent that's lightweight, synthetic, often like a dome tent that, has flexible poles that, support the roof. And a wall tent is not a tent you go backpacking with unless you've got, livestock like mules or horses or llamas to help. Probably, I don't know if a llama could carry a canvas tent, but wall tents are often a canvas material, kind of very strong, waterproof. It's got a big like steel poles that hold it up, and big kind of thick ropes that, guy it out and hold it taut. This one had a floor, and then we also had a wood burning stove. So thank you to my neighbor who loaned me that tent. It was fantastic to dry our gear out and to get cozy that night, because had we all been just like, shivering out in the rain, and we were able to get the dogs dried off, and it was pretty perfect.
It was awesome. And you made, what was the hot toddy you had that night that was delicious?
Yeah, so I picked a bunch of rose hips and I simmered those down in water and added honey and just made like a little cocktail mixer and mixed that with some hot water and tea and whiskey, and it was pretty good. I think I'll do it again. I might sweeten it up, maybe put more rose hips in it to get it concentrated, and it was pretty cool, like drinking a rose hip whiskey while we were cleaning our grouse crops that were packed full of rose hips.
Yeah, that was. And we were cleaning those, like you said earlier, we had to clean them away from camp, right? Because any remains, everything had to be so bear savvy. And it was, because I wasn't used to it, something I could easily forget about. And like, I even spilled dog food in the back of my truck. I'm like, oh no, I got to get all my dog food, every single kibble picked up. But we were cleaning those in the rain with our headlamps on. And I mean, Hannah, how do you clean a bird to make it look like a little Cornish hen? When I was like watching what you're doing, and I tried to do it, and all of a sudden the legs fell off. I'm like, what the? I was trying so hard to do what you did. You had a great technique, though.
I like to take the whole like skin off, and like we all were leaving a wing on, especially for Julie and Lauren who traveled from out of state. I kind of take all the skin off the breast, off the back, all the way. A lot of us were keeping fans. Take the fan off, and then I'm just keeping that legs and breast and keel on the backbone. I'm keeping that all attached. I'm, cutting the one wing at a joint and the feet at a joint, and kind of I take that home, and I cleaned it and I rinsed it off. Then I kind of bent the back and like tucked the knees up in the keel, and then that's how I wrapped it in saran wrap and put it in Ziplocs in the freezer. So that way I've got that whole little bird where I could do, like you said, like roast it like a Cornish hen. We've got it, I had a few that were just head shots, so no BBs in the chest and the legs, and so no broken bones, and those will be a really fun little meal to pull out over the winter months and drink some wine with.
Right. And Julie, you were telling me with the legs that you do a stock with them. Can you talk about that?
Yeah. So I just saved the breast, and so last night after I got home, I processed all my birds, and I removed the breast from the bone, and then I just keep all of the bones and the legs. And tonight I'm actually going to put all of that in a pot. It's really simple. You just put the bones and the scrap meat in the pot and add water and salt and carrots and onion, celery and parsley and garlic or whatever seasonings you want to add, and you basically just let it sit and simmer on the stove for hours. And I never use a recipe. I just kind of throw things in and let it do its thing. And then once I decide that the aromatics are the way that I like them, I take ice trays and I'll pour the stock into the ice trays. So then if I'm cooking and I need some sort of liquid and I just want to kind of zhuzh it up, I guess, I just throw a grouse flavored ice cube in. And then a lot of times I'll also, with the leftover, if I don't have enough trays, I'll just put it in jars and freeze it. But yeah, I only brought home 3 birds from this weekend, but it's enough that I'll be able to make like at least a tray of stock, which is just perfect for,
That's awesome.
Yeah, that's a really great idea.
After work. Yeah, it's super easy. But,
yeah, so I'm anxious to hear what kind of recipes you ladies are gonna do with your grouse from this weekend. Lauren, what do you have planned?
Yeah, so I'm super excited because like I said, I've only gotten 1 grouse before, so it was one of those, bring it home and eat it right away because you're so excited about it. So I'm really happy to have some more birds to try different recipes with. And Hannah was super kind and donated and sent me back with a couple of her birds too. So I'm really thankful for that. So in the past, I've done a recipe where you basically just sear the bird on the stove for a little bit, just in a ton of butter, lemon, garlic, salt and pepper, super simple, and then finish it off in the oven and let it sit for a while. So honestly, it just tastes a lot like lemony butter chicken to me. So that's the one way that I've eaten it. But I'm really excited to have more birds to be able to try some different recipes this time. So
cool.
Yeah,
what about you, Lauren? Or I'm sorry, Julie.
Oh, I'm like, I don't want to say lazy, but every time I cook bird, I always like keep it really simple, just because I feel like part of the like enjoying the bird is just being able to taste the flavor of the bird. And so I need to get more creative recipes, but I typically just like cook it really fast in a pan with butter and serve it over rice and veggies. And and it's like, it is a really great, after work fast meal, like nutritious fast meal. But right. I'm excited. That's why I love this group, because I feel like getting recipes and getting ideas about camp and like all those different things, this is like a perfect resource that we've started.
I agree. How about you, Hannah?
One recipe that I did with birds I got last year that I really want to do with grouse it's a Hank Shaw recipe. It's called a beer rock, BIEROCK, and it's a Dakota dish. But you take your bird and I'll put it in a pressure cooker with some stock, probably a beer, and pressure cook the whole grouse down, and then pick all the meat off of it, the breast meat, the leg meat, the back meat, if there's any like bits on the wings and the neck, kind of pull all that off. So I just have this like shredded meat, and I'll saute it. You saute up some cabbage with some mustard. And you've got that mix of the bird and the cabbage and maybe some onions and mustard. And then you wrap that in dough. Like you make these little dough balls. I don't know if you've ever seen like cabbage burgers. It's essentially a cabbage burger with bird meat. And so they're just these like buns with meat and veggies inside. And those are great for like, sticking a couple, we'll freeze them and then stick a couple in our pack to take hunting, whether it's bird hunting or big game hunting this season. And they're like kind of a little ready-made sandwich with just like dough and the salt and the mustard and the meat. And it's really good. You have to chew carefully, of course, because, there's probably going to be a couple BBs in there, but it's hard because they're really good and just eat them super fast and then you break a crown.
I love it. Hannah, I love your food prep strategy where everything is like assembly line planned out and just super easy when you're camping. Like you just pull your vacuum sealed pre-prepared burrito out, boil it, and I'm like, I'm super stoked to start doing more stuff like that.
And her stew in a jar that she just warmed up. Yeah. No, totally. And I love that about Hannah is like your food prep and your just your passion with the food that you've harvested is so awesome. And I'm learning a lot. And I even tried your goose jerky. That was a big step for me, and I liked it. Ooh,
delicious.
It was really good. Yeah.
we between big game and the birds, we're pretty good at filling the freezer. And so this time of year, it's also like, all right, bird season's on. I'm already, putting the birds away, and it's like, okay, I got to move things out of the freezer right now. So I'm pawning off, here I was at one point trying to get Julie to eat some stew. It's like, eat this, please. I need to clear it out. And, pawning off jerky to people. And so it's pretty fun. But also, like, when I know there are people who, at camp, I know lots of people bring their stove and their spices, and they cook in camp. But by the time I'm dragging my tired butt back to where the tents are and feeding the dogs and processing, the birds with my headlamps on, I just want to put food in my mouth and not cook and go to sleep.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
or
and that's
here and then go to sleep.
That's why you're eating healthier than the rest of us, because my tired then is I'm like, I'll just have my bag of M&Ms, some wine, a piece of jerky, because I'm too tired to do anything else. So
I also mooched off of your jerky and your M&Ms and your wine, so then me.
That's true, but it does just help to, you do eat a lot better if you prepare that way. It just sometimes takes that extra prep and thought to prepare for camping. But yeah, when you see how someone else is eating so well, you're like, dang, I should really try harder next time.
Yeah, you're exactly right. It makes me want to strive for better. I mean, I'm gonna buy myself one of those propane Coleman stoves.
Yeah,
I'm gonna get myself a tote and look like I'm the real deal next time. Let's see. I'm gonna bring bolts from my cooler.
I started a list on my phone of all the cool tips and tricks I learned from you guys this weekend. So
yeah, that's a good idea.
Yeah. And it's not even things you really think about. Like for me, it's like, I didn't even bring like a knife for processing birds because I'm like, in the mindset of like, I don't kill that many birds. And then all of a sudden I got these 3 birds and I'm like, I don't have bags. I don't have a knife to even like, what am I doing? Like, it wasn't even a thought that crossed my mind. So being around other people and seeing what they have and their cool tools, it's really nice.
And knowing what is actually in your vest as far as gear, right, Lauren? Because look what happened to me. Like
right?
I got that bird and I'm like, oh, the intestines. I don't want to put intestines in my vest. And so I just started like breasting it out. I'm like, I don't have a knife. And come to find out, when I looked in my pack later on, I had a multi-tool in there that I really could have done what I had planned to do. So
yeah, versus our tweezers and scissors that we had.
It was so funny. I'm like, Lauren, do you have a knife? Here. She pulls out her awesome kit. And she's like, well, I got a tweezers. And I'm like, oh, I have a hemostat. We're definitely not going to be breasting this thing out with either of those.
Well, and I think we learned from you too, Courtney, just because you being the bird dog babe, with the chain gang, like with trying to keep all of our puppies. And I had a near catastrophe with my puppy because he ate some bones the night before and woke me up puking in his crate. And I was imagining, he's ruptured a gut and I'm gonna have to run him down to the emergency vet. And he turned out to be fine, but you had the whole stakeout with the little short lead, so all the dogs can be controlled, be confined, keep them safe from themselves and things they can eat, make sure they're not wandering off or wrestling with each other. And so kind of your dog setup was, I'm like, okay, and some of your other gear, like your pants, I did just buy a pair of pants that you were wearing because I like
awesome.
So
Awesome. You're going to love them. They're so comfortable.
Yeah, I was even already texting Hannah today being like, what pants do you, because I got home yesterday and my legs were just shredded from, not having thick enough pants walking through that brush. And I was like, man, I gotta figure this out. This is not fun.
Yep. I can't give the Proas Pants code here to listeners, but it's for the Patreon. But I mean, you guys are sisterhood. So if Hannah hasn't given you that code yet, I will to get a discount on those if you guys want them. So absolutely. Dang. Yeah, because they rock. So I'm curious, what kind of wines do you guys like to pair with your birds?
Lauren?
Anything.
Oh, you want me to go first? Like,
Yeah,
I'm
the
the
wine
wine
lady.
lady.
Sophisticated
I
question
am the
for
wine
me.
lady. Yet I
love
can't
it.
even.
Beer?
That's a good answer too. That works.
Yeah. Yet I'm the wine gal. Yet I can't even bring a wine bottle opener to camp either. And so I think I used
How
one
did
of Julie's.
the tent stake work out?
Yeah, I think I was holding the bottle and Hannah just ended up shoving the cork right through there. So we had a floating cork in the wine.
We're so classy.
Yeah. Uh, I'm a big fan of Pinot Grigios with wine, a white wine. And for reds, I like a good just Malbec with my own. But I'm talking like I know my wines, and that's just what I like to drink. So.
And
And Julie, you like beer with your birds?
Oh, I mean, I love wine, but I'm not an aficionado. I will drink whatever glass of wine you put in my hand.
I love it. I'm the same way, so no, I can't say anything different.
Maybe next year we should have Lauren do a pairing at our next camp. She can do a wine pairing with the bird, and then we'll be educated.
Yeah. Come a little, and I'll bring a wine bottle opener next time too.
But like you said, Lauren, like the Pinot Gris, the white wine, the lighter, because we were hunting roughies, and kind of that lighter meat would probably go good with that. And then I think I love a good Malbec too with some of your darker birds, like maybe sharptail, or that sounds good to me.
Mm-hmm.
Sounds great.
Yeah. Yeah. Next year we'll maybe pair our birds with our wine.
Yeah, it'd be fun to cook some of our birds out there too next time. I was thinking about that, come back and just maybe, prepare it in your own way, and try some different types of recipes. That'd be fun too. So
That would be fun. But that means we're going to have to get our limits earlier and quit sooner.
Yeah.
Because I think we were just all so determined, weren't we? Of staying out there and like, okay, it's getting dark. We were to go back. And not the fact that we were soaking wet and freezing. It was more of it's getting dark now. We have to quit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We kept getting flushes, so we kept going.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So darn.
Yeah. It's hard to quit. Yeah. Like on, Sunday when we kind of parted ways, I told Hannah, I'm like, just an hour, I got a long drive ahead of me. We'll get out. And then, 3 hours later, I'm like, oh crap, I gotta go. But we just kept getting into birds, and it's hard to stop once you get into those flushes. So
It is. Yeah. That's why we were talking like, oh, let's have a meeting time. Everybody comes back at 1. And like, no, you can't do that. Because once you get into birds, nobody wants to turn around and go, oh, I have to be back. So I love the fact that it's just like, we're doing a morning hunt, come back when you want, or don't. And then, but every night we went back out for, I'd say like a afternoon, evening hunt dish. So it was awesome. Anything else? I think I wanted to just make sure I touched on all the stuff. I don't know. Am I missing anything?
The poop bucket. That was my first time.
Yeah, mine too. That was interesting, wasn't it? But it was like set up like it's kind of a comfy little VIP section, really.
Yeah, you get a nice little vista. You have a little station. That's all right. Not sure I'd recommend it, but better than the alternative.
Yeah.
I requested the poop bucket just because I have dogs that are known to dig up scat holes, and just since we were there for a couple days, just had a bucket that we did our dew in, and then we put dirt and pine needles in it to keep it not stinky, and also that's also a bear attractant to have scats, and so that got locked in the car every night, and so thank you for humoring me with my poop eating dogs.
It was fun. It was fun. And we were completely out of cell phone reception there. So for most of us, not only do we not have reception, but we had dead phones because there's no electricity. And thankfully my mom didn't try contacting me, or else she would have maybe freaked out because I didn't let her know where I was going. But I did have reception for whatever reason on Friday for a little bit, that I was able to tell my husband I had kind of a phone a husband helpline to bring a couple things, and he brought us some what was it, bison tacos.
Yeah, that was awesome.
Chips and salsa, so that was nice. He's sweet.
Yeah. That was also
Yeah.
another
That's
late
amazing.
hunt that we did, and to come back to food was
Yeah.
wonderful.
Yeah.
That was
I know.
epic.
Yeah, maybe next year instead we just think about having, men just bringing in all this food for us at the end of the night, just have this
Yeah.
deluxe meal and,
Like Cabana
No.
Boys on the Prairie.
Yeah.
Yeah. Camp lunches.
I like that. That's a clever idea, Lauren. Very good.
I'm writing it down right now.
Yeah, so put that in your notes, Julie. Put that on the to bring notes.
Yeah.
Add to your camping list.
All right, ladies. Anything else you wanted to touch on?
Thanks, Hannah, for setting it up, and thanks
Yeah.
for letting us recap today, Courtney. This was fun.
It was fun, and I love we're gonna be able to have this to come back to and reminisce on. So
Yeah.
I'm all about keeping memories and making memories and keeping them. So
Mhm.
it was awesome. This was my first time of having like a group hunt with women. So, but like ones that are self-sufficient. We were talking earlier of some of these women's hunts are, just show up at a game fair and then like a game farm, and then I'll go on a pheasant hunt. And it's scary for me because having that women's event, Hannah, like you came to, and we had shooting in the morning and then, hunting over dogs in the afternoon, I still felt like, maybe not all of us were quite prepared to be in that position to even shoot over dogs after they had a full morning of instruction. So I think that there is room for women's hunts, but to have that instruction so that they're comfortable and confident before they're hunting over dogs and mostly young, untrained dogs, kind of like, we had ones that are out there that would be chasing birds or, jumping up high at them and not knowing when a safe, clean shot would be. And I mean, really, with some of that, like that one shot, we could have had where the bird flew right in between us. I mean, a couple of them throughout the weekend, right? Yeah. So it's nice to have that experienced people that you can trust around you to make only safe decisions, and that no bird is worth making a bad decision.
Yeah, and I just had someone tell me recently, I actually wrote it down. He said, the most important shot is the shot you don't take, because the gravity of like that shot, that bird that was straight in between us, or, someone or some dog through the brush that you couldn't see, and, just having that trust in each other that, we were going to do the right thing is pretty good. And that's hard when you try to do kind of like facilitated events where you want people to learn to love this craft. But you need to kind of figure out their skill level and then tailor to that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. And I just want to, thank you so much, Hannah, for setting this up, and Courtney and Julia. It was so fun getting to know you guys, and just being new to the sport. It's so fun, just learning from different women, and it was so great talking with you guys. And I think I came back home and just talked my husband's ears out, and he's like, okay, you've told me that story. You told me that. I came back and I was just so stoked and like, just couldn't stop talking about it. So yeah, just
awesome.
So appreciate your guys' mentorship and just learning from y'all. It was awesome.
I learned from all of you as well. So it's shared learning for sure. And in case people aren't following you guys on Instagram or something and want to see more of your adventures. I mean, what do you guys have planned for the rest of the season? Any special bird hunting trips or hunting trips in general?
Harney and I are going to just do a lot of solo hunts just so we can focus on the two of us learning, but I think we're going to stick pretty close to home, and I'm really excited to get her on mountain quail, or, that would be great, but the California quail out here, because I think she'll do real well on them.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and being new to the Utah area, we're really sticking close to where we live now in Logan and exploring the area around us, and having a new dog and never owning a bird dog before. We're just getting out and working with her. We've tried dove hunting for the first time. So just sticking close to the area and learning about our dog and really just learning about the area. So hopefully, in the coming seasons, we can find those good spots and be able to get to those. But yeah, just really, really figuring out our new terrain in this area. So it's been pretty cool so far to be able to explore new areas.
Yeah, I'm waiting for Lauren and her husband Ethan to figure out ptarmigan hunting in Utah, because that is definitely a trip I want to come try. My brother is a pretty avid fly fisherman, and so he's got this idea of doing a cast and blast where we backpack up into the alpine, we fly fish in the mountain lakes, and we've got the dogs, and we chase ptarmigan. So that's a bucket list trip that they've got to figure out before I come. I don't want to be the guinea pig on the hunt.
Oh man, that sounds dreamy.
Yeah.
Other trips, we've got a little bit of pheasant in western Montana and forest grouse that I'll chase locally, and then probably run out to eastern Montana for a bird trip. And then we actually have a week off of work where we're going to head out to the east side of the state for our deer camp. We have our over-the-counter deer tags. My husband and I each drew an antelope tag, but there are pheasant and sharptail out there, so and maybe some huns. So it's going to be a mixed bag out there too.
That's
so,
really exciting.
A little bit of everything.
Awesome. Well, thank you, ladies. I appreciate you joining me and having this recap.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Thank
you.
Great.
This was great.
Yeah.
ya.
Have a good rest of the night.
Thanks.
Bye.
Bye.
Thanks for listening to another episode of the Bird Dog Babe podcast. If you enjoyed this episode and learned something from the content, please share it with your friends. Please subscribe, rate, and review this podcast on whichever platform you're listening from. Check out the show notes for links to references from this episode, as well as info on how to connect through Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube. If you're loving this podcast and want to support the production and content, please consider becoming one of my Patreon patrons. Being a patron connects us more on a personal level, where I'm able to help answer questions and give advice. My husband William and I have bred, owned, and trained AKC Master Hunters, Field Champions, NAVDA VCs, and AKC Show Champions. We're excited to not only share what we've learned, but also listen from previous and future episode guests for additional content. Go to patreon.com/thebirddogbabe and $5 per month and you're in. Through the Patreon platform, 5% is donated towards conservation, and an additional 5% is donated to the AKC Canine Health Foundation. Until next week, bird dog babes, keep them versatile.